Yo, 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 what's good? We out here, we out here. Let's go. I love this. The daily lives. Usually we do them a little bit later. But let's see, let's get everybody on here. We got a big one today. I'm so excited. So excited. He's like a godfather of entrepreneurship. So we're gonna be bringing on my boy Patrick Bet David. What a leader this guy is. I'm so grateful that he's taking time out of his day. I mean, he runs a massive company. And I'm just so excited, everybody. So prepare your questions. The way this is going to go is just basically I'm going to ask a bunch of questions to Patrick, kind of get his take on everything that's going on, ask him some personal questions that I've always wanted to ask him. And then I'll open it up to you guys to ask some questions. And I want you guys to get some value from this. So let's get it. Let's bring him on. Let's go. I see you, Rob. What's up, Rob? What's up, Alyssa? Yes, there he is.
How
The
you
legend.
doing?
The
How you feeling?
legend. Yes. Dad, I told you Patrick would come on live. I told you. Yo, Pat, man, my father is such a huge fan. I mean, I'm a huge fan. You got for sure. And you know me, like I have leaders create leaders on YouTube. Bro, you're the dopest, coolest. You're the dopest, coolest entrepreneurs here out here with YouTube, man. Your show is the coolest. I just sit up with my dad. We watch some of those mobster interviews, and me and my dad get such an awesome quality time together, bro. And
I love that. I love to hear that.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So how you been? How you doing yourself? How you feeling?
You know what, man? I feel great, bro, because I feel I've worked so hard throughout my entire life to understand what a leader really truly is. My father raised me with these principles since I was young. I've been through the last crisis, and I just feel like, this is such a beautiful opportunity for me to step up and show up even more as a leader for my team, for my community. So it's just for my business, and it's beautiful, man. I feel like I'm now pushing people to really step up to be the leaders that they're called to be. And I feel like, as a millennial, Patrick, I feel our generation is so important that we have leaders, because we grew up with social media. We grew up with this culture of followers, a culture of trying to be liked, and this culture of, comparing ourselves. And it's manipulated us. And I feel like it's happened since we were kids with the media and education system. And bro, like right now, more than ever before, this generation, this time in history, this decade, this era is probably the most important decade in humanity, looking at what's happening right now around the world. So the fact that I get an opportunity right now to play a role in this, to help people, especially in my generation, to know what it's like to lead their life is really important to me. And I feel blessed to be in this position.
I love it. I love it. I agree.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, bro, thank you so much for taking time to be here, man. I look up to you. I admire you so much. I see you. What's up, Alec? I see you. We have a really amazing group here. I guess I have a couple of personal things I want to ask you, and I got some things I just want to ask you also in regards to what's happening. And I guess I'll start with you being one of the most successful, powerful CEOs and entrepreneurs of our time. How do you think right now an entrepreneur CEO can thrive coming out of this current state of economy?
Can thrive coming out of this current state of the
Or
economy.
right now. Yeah.
So I will tell you, sometimes when we're places and we're going through things like, when you're an 18-year-old kid, you go to a nightclub for the first time, or you went when you were 16 years old to a nightclub, and you're around your peers and you're trying to kind of go and talk to the girl or all that other stuff, and all your friends are trying to do everything, and then you're noticing yourself, you kind of get shy when something happens, or your spirit kind of gets confident in a certain area. Maybe you can dance well, and all of a sudden when it comes down to dancing, you kind of have your chin up a little bit, and you kind of like, well, you know what? I think I can hang with my peers in this area of partying. Or you go play basketball at a YMCA or at a certain league or in the streets of Venice, whatever it is, And then you go in at first, you're kind of hesitant. And then all of a sudden the game starts. You're like, you know what? I just made a couple shots. I blocked the ball. I stole the ball. I gave this guy an assist. I can play with these guys. And then you all of a sudden are kind of like, maybe I'm underestimating my abilities. Or you go to the military and you go to boot camp and you're noticing, you're like, I'm not going to know how I'm going to respond to these kinds of times. But on the outside, everybody looks kind of tough. And we're kind of like, yeah, this is nothing. I can handle this. I remember one time, I'll tell you the crazy story here. I go to boot camp and it's 4 of us leaving from LA. Yeah. It's myself. It's this guy from MS-13. It's another guy that's a former 18th Street guy. And it's another guy that's a soccer player, short guy, 5'7", 5'8" guy. We go to boot camp. So we fly out from LA to Atlanta. We land at Atlanta. They put us in a Greyhound. And from Greyhound, with the Greyhound, we go to South Carolina to go to our base, Fort Jackson, South Carolina. We go to the base. The drill sergeants come out screaming. They're grabbing our, they're throwing it out. Our clothes are all over the place. And they're hollering in our ears. They're hitting our head with their hat that they have, the drill sergeant hat. And then you go in. The drive to the base, everybody's talking hard. Everybody's like, man, I grew up in the streets of LA. This is nothing to me. Do you realize what I am? I represent this. I've seen bullets. I've seen gunshots. I've seen all this stuff. Then boot camp starts. Then first week goes by. Then second week goes by. Then there's a quiet kid on the corner no one's even paying any attention to. White guy, skinny, maybe 130 pounds on a good day. One. But he looks like a weak guy. He looks like a timid guy. The next thing you know, fast forward, the tough guy with all the tattoos, he couldn't handle it. And he choked. And he rang the bell. And he says, I got to go home. I can't take this. I got to go back to my family. 5 weeks later, he threw in the towel and went home. The guy that everybody thought was the toughest guy in the unit quit. The guy everybody underestimated today is the senator of Ohio, Frank De La Rose.
Wow.
We keep in contact together. He's a senator. And we were in the same base together. This guy I got the chills all over my body. This guy was a quiet guy. We're a year apart. We're on the same floor and would always seem like somebody that wasn't going to be somebody. But when it came down to it, the spirit got bigger and bigger and bigger. What does this all stuff mean? We talk about going to a nightclub. We talk about playing basketball. We talk about being in the military. See, you really don't know who you are until times like this show up. Today, for CEOs to really separate themselves, this is Hell Week, except it's Hell Quarter. It ain't just a Hell Week. Hell Week is summertime, 85 degrees, 90 degrees in the sun. You're training morning till night. Your body's sore. You can't run anymore. How many more suicides do I need to do? Coach is screaming at you. Your peers are hitting you, the tires, whatever it is you're doing. This is Hell Quarter. You're about to find out how much you can take control of your imagination. You're about to find out how much you're going to let your imagination sabotage you. You're about to find out how much you're going to be able to control all the news and media telling you that the end of the world is here. And whoever is able to play the mind game and the emotional game today is going to be seen as a leader amongst their peers, is going to be seen as a leader amongst their teammates, is going to be seen as a leader amongst their family. And 3, 6, 12 months from now, whenever somebody looks for a crisis leader, whenever somebody looks for a wartime leader, they're going to say, you know what, that person's got it. So when you ask that question, I think this is more of a Hell Quarter for everybody as a leader to consider if you can really hack it during these times or not. Because if you can, when this thing goes by, I tell you, we are going to see some of the biggest rock stars that we've never seen before because they could handle it during times like this. If you can handle times like this, when your company's about to go out of business, everybody chokes, you ain't going to go through it. When your enemies are coming after you, you're not going to go through it. When people are talking behind your back with defamation of character, it's not going to bother you. So these are some of the best training grounds we could be going through right now.
I love it. So Patrick, where were you during the last economic recession? Where were you? Who were you as an entrepreneur back then? Were you, what kind of business and where were you at in a mindset perspective versus now?
That's such a great question. So I got out of the military June of 99. And then a day before 9/11, I start working on Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. So I go and become a stockbroker, but a day before 9/11. So it's 9/10, it's Monday. The next day it's 9/11. And Gerard, I'm supposed to go to New York to the World Trade Center because Morgan Stanley's headquarters is at the World Trade Center. So last minute, they changed the training. They sent us to Mark Hopkins Hotel in San Francisco. They did training there in San Fran instead of New York. When 9/11 happened, my broker, Dave Kirby, sat us down in the morning. And he says, let me tell you guys this much. The next 3 years in this industry, it's going to be very difficult. He says, no one's going to want to buy from you. No one's going to want to buy stocks right now. People don't want to talk to you. Everybody's afraid. It's a war. That's a true black swan, because that was a surprise. Nobody was expecting something like that to happen. That's never happened to America before. The pandemic is more like a white swan, because we've been through SARS or, you know, some of these things in the past.
Right.
So everybody was shocked, and I had no idea what to do. I looked around, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, man. Everybody, one by one, everybody was quitting and everybody was leaving to get a regular, say, bank job. They're like, I'm not going to be a broker working for commissions. I'm out of here. And then I stuck around and I watched everybody and I watched everybody and I watched everybody. Next thing you know, I went to, I left Morgan. I went to Transamerica. During that period, I lost everything. I'm $49,000 in debt. Morgan Stanley is not giving up my license because they spent a year training me, so they wouldn't give up my securities license, my Series 7 and 66 to leave.
Yeah.
I was selling T-shirts. You can actually see the video on YouTube. I was selling T-shirts on the corner of Reseda and Nordhoff, right next to Cal State Northridge. I would take my shirt off because I had a decent physique, and I would stand in the corner. I'm not even kidding with you. I would stand in the corner. I had 2 shirts I was selling. One of them was United We Stand, which I sold for $10, and the other one I had was Osama Yo Mama. I was selling for $20.
Oh, that's good. That's
and
good.
if you bought both of them, I sold it to you for $15. So I did that. I will buy these T-shirts for $2, and I would sell it for $15. So that kind of helped me survive. And then the next time in 2008, you know, when the mortgage crisis took place, it was my biggest year of my career, because at this point of the game, I was prepared due to 2001.
Yeah. Wow. So powerful, man. I just commented, like, the come up is real. Who here, like, comment below, you know, if you know that feeling, right? Like that feeling of like being at that rock bottom moment, but doing whatever it took, being willing to do whatever it took, you know. And I've been there at those moments in my life as well, because like back during the last recession was when I lost everything. It's interesting because you mentioned stocks. I was a marketer for publicly traded companies. I would help them to tell their story. So I would go and look for small cap publicly traded companies that were these innovators. And I would help them back then, before we had social media. I was helping them get written in blogs. I would help them with email marketing, pay-per-click ads, anything I could do to help their story get heard by investors. We called it investor awareness. It also was known as like stock promoters in a sense, right? And when the economy crashed, I was like, before it did, I was like this kid who had it all. I was buying sneakers. I was making it. I went from getting my first client for $500. I would stay up till 4 a.m, just like, I was obsessed with like reaching out to companies, faxing. I used to fax back then, CEOs, to say, give me a shot to tell your story. Got my first client for $500, grew that to $10 million agency by the time I was 24. The economy crashes, and I now no companies want to hire for investor. Like, no one wanted to spend any money, any publicly traded company. I had put all my money in the stock market, lost it all, and I was stuck with nothing. And I remember talking to my mother, who helped me to learn to bounce out of that and say, listen, you can lose all the money in the world, but they can never take this, and they can never take this. Go out there and do it again. And that's what got me to be inspired to start making documentaries around the economy. And, you know, and there was the birth of EliteDaily.com, which then became the #1 millennial publication in the United States. So it's like right now, each one of you right now has this opportunity to step up right now and lead and create that vision, and start not looking at all these outside circumstances and blame, but really step into what can you create right now? How can you step up and create something that's needed and solve a problem in the world right now, so that you can become a CEO and a leader like Patrick, right? So Patrick, what are some of your favorite or some of the business principles that you live by currently right now?
To me, it's alignment. Alignment's at the highest level. So, you know, one day I sat down, I'm on a flight, and I have a 5.5-hour flight. I took a piece of paper out and I started writing questions for myself. And I said, so write down the most difficult time of your life. And I started writing them down. So write down the people that have believed in you the most. I wrote them down. Write down the people that have been your biggest critics and haters in your life, that have hurt you the most. I wrote it down. Write down the defining moments of your life. So I wrote it down. I'm like, okay, so I'm looking at this point of the game, person sitting next to me, I'm covering myself because I got emotional. And I'm like, I don't want this person to look at me because, you know, you got some pride. You don't want to show somebody on a flight, what the hell is this guy crying for?
Oh, wow,
You
yeah.
careless whisper on the, you know,
yeah.
on your phone, you know, you're thinking about a girl. I'm like, no, I'm actually
Yeah.
thinking of my life. But I took a sheet of paper and I wrote out the values and principles I want to build my life on. And that became the journey of what values and principles I wanted to build my life on as a friend, as a business partner, as a businessman, as a leader, as a parent, in every possible way. Then, anytime in my life, Gerard, I have swayed away from values and principles that matter to me the most, I've been very miserable.
Yeah.
And anytime my values and principles match my behavior and how I live, I've been very effective.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is, one, not compromising your values and principles, regardless of doing business with people, regardless if you're bringing a investor in, regardless if you're hiring a new executive, regardless if you're going into business with somebody, don't compromise your values and principles. And then outside of that, I have some basic principles, which is, I was doing a webinar early this morning, and one of the guy asked me, he says, where does your confidence come from? If you compete, what do you compete in? I said, to me, I don't compete on how big you are today versus me. Meaning, if I'm coming up, I don't look at another person and say, oh my gosh, look how much farther they are from us. I only compete at who's grown at a faster percentage today. That's my competition. I don't compete in a league. You're running $1 billion company. I'm running a $50 million company. I can sit there and think about it all day long. I'm going to be depressed because you're 20 times bigger than me.
Yeah.
But if I look at this and I see I'm growing at a 75% rate and you're going at a 3% rate the last 9 years, listen, eventually we're going to catch up to you. So it's about the principles of improving. So outwork, out-improve, out-strategize, outlast, which is the last one we don't figure out, because you never know who's got the most stamina in the game, because most people cannot handle the mental and the emotional torture, the stamina. And you got to have courage, wisdom, tolerance, understanding. And the two things I teach my kids every night is never bully anybody, and also don't get bullied. That's pretty much some of the principles I live by.
I love that, bro. I love that. I love how, guys, listen, you know, this is sound, true, like true. If someone who's a trusted advisor, someone you can really trust, and like, you know, this is sound advice, guys. Like getting clear on your values, getting clear on your principles that you live by. And sometimes it hurts, but what a great time than right now. And I really feel like, I don't know about you, Patrick, like if there have been these values that were instilled in you at a young age from your family, and how important family is to you. I want to talk about that. I have some real core principles that my father gave me at a very young age, but I definitely have over time. I've changed. I've evolved. And, you know, I just recently reevaluated my core values and my team, and like really started to think about like, how am I defining those values, and how am I making sure that not only am I living by those values myself, but that my team in the business that I'm creating, they clearly know these values and they know what I mean by these values. Because I may say my value is, you know, transparency, but that may mean something different to me than it may mean to them. And sometimes you got to be really clear to define these values, and then make sure that everybody on your team inherits those values, and that those values are being, you know, really lived by your team and by your customers and community. Like, so for me, I just reevaluated recently what those are. Have those evolved for you over time?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Absolutely. You know, when I was single, and I made a decision, I'm not going to get married. I enjoy my own company. I enjoy going to movies by myself, and I sit there and I can have my own fun. I can go and travel, and I'll have a blast because I know how to entertain myself very well. But I was convinced I'm not going to get married. Why? My parents, their marriage didn't work out. I'm just kind of like, look, to have the kids, to have the responsibilities, to have all this other stuff, I'm good. I have girlfriends. I'm having my fun. I'm not going to go play ball and get married. And then one day I'm sitting and I'm talking to my dad, and I'm realizing I'm the only BETT David out there. So in order for this BETT David generation to continue, there's not a lot of Assyrians out there. Maybe it's a good idea for me to kind of go out there and figure this thing out. So I get a hold of a book called 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged. And I think I told you about this one time when we spoke about it when you were out here in Dallas.
Yeah.
I got a hold of this book, 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged. And at that time, I was talking to 4 girls at the time. I gave the book to everybody. And once I went through the questions, there was about 50 questions that mattered to me. I gave the book to everybody. We sat down and we went through the questions. And I said, I can never be with her. I can never be with you. I can never be with her. We can date, but I can never marry you. Never in a million years. because I went through those questions.
Right.
I also really
Yes.
couldn't be married to me. Here's what I mean by who couldn't be married to me. I knew that certain cultures were not going to do well with me because I'm not the 9 to 5 guy. I'm not the 8 to 5 guy. I'm not going to be at home every night. Last night, I was at the office at 7 o'clock in the morning last night. I got home at 1:30 last night. I'm not at my house. I'm at the office right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we're working, so
Love
it's
that.
not like we sent 80 of our employees home and we got 20 of them working right now because we got a lot of projects that we're working on right now. So I knew who could say, I could be with you. No, you can't. Yes, I can. I promise you can't. No, I'm telling you, I would make it work. No way. One of the best advice I ever got about a relationship was women marry men hoping they can change them and they don't. Meaning, women marry men hoping they'll change and they don't. Men marry women hoping they stay the same and they change. And this was given to me by a pastor. Very random advice to give to me, right?
Is that good advice, guys?
Let me tell you. So this guy gives me the advice, and I was actually talking to another girl at that time, and he says, look, whatever it is today, if you don't like it and you can't tolerate it, it's going to get worse. So if you can't handle it today, make the decision, and don't be the selfish person to try to make it, and you're going to have problems later on. So then you get married, then you run a business, then you start realizing what works, what doesn't work. You watch everyone's behavior, and your values, principles, and philosophies start evolving in many different ways. You start realizing that in business, you know, you matter. If you want the spotlight, you matter. But as much as you matter, you don't matter. You realize that, yes, you may be the CEO and you got this fancy title and everything else, but the reality behind closed doors, CEO really means everything's your fault. Yeah. It's not as fancy as you think it is behind closed doors. If you think everything is everybody else's fault and you're not taking responsibility for it, then next thing you know, nobody wants to work for you. Nobody wants to be around you. Now you can't keep type A personalities. Now you can't keep 10s in your company. I was reading a book by this private equity guy who's one of the biggest private equity guys in America. And he said, for the longest time, I was building my company on recruiting 8s. And he says, you can build a good company having a lot of 8s. He says, 9s can do great things in your company. He says, but if you start recruiting and retaining 10s, now you become the best of the best. I used to be good at getting 7s and 8s, and then I made a decision to go to the 9s and the 10s. So in order to keep the 9s and the 10s, you must change to attract them and even change even more to keep them. So it's a process to go through. So it is a lot of work, but it's a blast going through it.
Yo, that was fire. I need to watch that one again. Guys, comment your #1 top core value. You know, Patrick, so you've interviewed, I mean, I'm telling you, bro, you're and I mean this, you're my favorite YouTube channel. I love your interviews. Yo, I'm telling you, I'm going to be the same. I'm growing up. I'm going to just start wearing my suit and tie as I get older, like doing my interviews. But like, you got such a cool vibe, man. And I just want to know, who are your top 3? I know I'm sure you love everyone you've interviewed, but who are like the top 3 interviews that have really touched you, man, that have really like impacted you and that you enjoyed?
Kobe Bryant has to be at the top. There's no question about it. Kobe Bryant was at the top. And not only just because of the interview, but because of how we connected for the hour prior to doing the interview and what happened afterwards. If our conversation, if we don't spend an hour and a half in a boardroom together, that interview is not the same. No way in the world. When Kobe and I spend that time together, obviously at this point of the game, everybody remembers the day we heard the news when Kobe Bryant passed away. Let me put it to
Kobe.
Everybody
comment a heart for Kobe.
I mean, you know, I'll tell you a part about Kobe that I got the chills all over my body. We're at seasons 52 when Kobe dies, okay? And I get text messages. I'm like, there's no way in the world. I said, this is an ugly prank. It's another one of these Paul Walker pranks people are playing. I don't like this stuff. And then CNN reports
same with me,
Kobe Bryant. And then Fox reports. And I'm like, what? So I'm looking at this. My 6-year-old son is sitting next to me, and he knows how to read at this point. He says, Daddy, did that say Kobe Bryant died? I said, yes.
Oh, man.
Look what he says. Gerard, look what he says. My son says, Daddy, Kobe, my friend, died? The kid says Kobe. You know why he said Kobe, my friend, died?
Wow.
Because when Kobe was there an hour before, he spent 15 minutes talking to my 2 sons and my nephew, and he spent another 20 minutes talking to my wife.
Wow.
The way that guy was off camera is a whole different story. I was so impressed by him purely by off camera. So Kobe's on that list. President Bush is on that list, even though that interview is at the Library of Congress. We could never go live with it because
Oh,
he
wow.
want that interview to be live. We have it, but we can't publish it ever. Or else you're going to have the White House coming after me, or, the government coming after me. I can't do that
Yeah.
one. Sammy DeBull Gravano has to be one of
That
those.
was the dopest interview, bro.
It has to be.
That was the dopest interview ever. Two-part series.
Yeah, well, we got some other things. If the pandemic wasn't going on, we had some real crazy stuff coming out with Sammy. We were working on a pretty big project we were working on, but it'll come out soon once everything goes back to normal.
You learn so much from the mobsters.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? You get all these leadership skills. I mean, the thing that I loved really was like, I loved how much you learned the art of persuasion, like from a sales standpoint, like the way that you making someone else think that they win, like his whole mindset of how he got John Gotti, like I was like, wow, it's brilliant,
Very interesting guy. First time he and I spoke, he had just gone out of prison. We got on a phone together and I said, hey, I'd want to be able to talk to you about doing an interview. He says, interview? I don't talk to the camera. The last time I did an interview was with Diane Sawyer. What makes you think I'm going to do anything? He went off for an hour and a half with me on the phone. Long story short, we met together first time in Phoenix, and we went to this one place. We went to the back. 2.5-hour conversation led to another conversation, and a year and a half later, we finally did the interview. I'd say the other interview that was also very interesting was Carlos Mencia, because it was a different kind of an approach we took on trying to get Carlos and Joe Rogan to be on the same room together. Yeah. If you haven't seen that one was a very challenging.
I didn't see that one yet.
Yeah, it's a very and then Ray Dalio. So I would say those would be my favorite interviews.
Who's one person you want to interview this year?
I
on
would
your hit list.
The people I want to interview, I wouldn't mind interviewing Putin. I wouldn't mind interviewing the CEO of Huawei. I wouldn't mind going there and interviewing them to kind of see where they're. I wouldn't mind interviewing Maduro. I wouldn't mind interviewing some of these guys because I have some questions I want to ask them. And then obviously you got a lot of these folks on the business side that, any of these luminaries out there, I'd love to interview them.
Yeah. So how do you prepare for your interviews? I always think that one of the reasons why I love your show is because you just show up. It's caused me to really move the bar up with my standard of how I prepare for interviews. But what's your process for preparing for an interview?
So, the whole format that 6 years ago when I was thinking about creating content, 7 years ago when I was thinking about creating content, I went around to see if I really want to do this. Okay. If I really want to do this, because it's work. Don't get me wrong. I run two companies, man. I run, the insurance company with 14,000 agents, 130 offices, investors, attorneys, lawyers, carriers. And I run Valuetainment, which is scheduled content, interviews. It's a lot of work. And I got 3 kids, wife. So it's a lot of stuff you got to do. But 7 years ago, I said, let me see if I want to do this. And then I went and I saw formats. This is how you do podcasts. Here's my 15 questions to use. All you need to do is just take my hands and ask the same questions, and you can do 4 interviews in a single day. And I said, that's not how I would do it. I can't do it that format because that's vanilla. I don't like vanilla. I like, strawberry sorbet. That's slightly different than what other people want to do. I like certain flavors, a banana split. Anyways, long story short, I said, I'm going to do it in a different way. So if I do an interview behind closed doors, there's probably several hours of research taking place before I sit down with the person I'm interviewing. So it's not the standard questions. And I'll typically, if you see my interviews, I'll typically have 5 to 10 pages of notes on the desk that I go through one by one, and I try to hit up all the topics. So, but it's a lot of research that happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, I noticed that. And it's phenomenal. Thank you for doing this work. I know how hard it is, especially when you are a real CEO. What do you feel is the power of being a thought leader? Like, do you think that, if you are a CEO of a company, I deal with a lot of CEOs that fear doing this thing because they look at personal branding and they look at, being an influencer, and they're just like, you know what? I don't think they necessarily see how it can actually grow their business or how can it grow their fulfillment and impact. What would you say to a CEO right now that, does want to leave a legacy, does have a message that he wants to share, wants to build a movement, but doesn't see how to do it where it will bring value to what, he or she is creating with the business?
I'll ask you the simplest question. How much money would you give to have hundreds of hours of content of your grandfather? How much would you give? Let me ask that question one more time. How much money Gerard, would you give to have hundreds of hours of your great grandfather telling you about the lineage of your family? What would you pay for that? What would I pay for that? I never spent time with my dad's dad. I don't know what he thought. I don't know how he was wired. I don't know who he is.
Bro,
if I had 50 hours of content on my grandfather on YouTube, I would devour the hell out of it.
Oh my God, yeah.
So forget about the whole idea of creating content for becoming an influencer or just think about it. One day, you're no longer here. You got your great grandson who wants to know who his great grandfather was, and he binge watches on your episodes.
Yeah, that's cool, right?
That's my granddad. So that to me is the pinnacle. So if you ain't gonna do it for your business, if you ain't gonna do it for anybody, create content because one day your kids are gonna watch to see what you were. It's the ultimate method of journaling yourself because you're able to go back and kind of feel and see all the stuff that's going on. So that's that part. Now let's set that part aside. If that doesn't convince you, the other stuff is maybe monetary. On the monetary side, you have an edge. It's an online resume. If somebody wants to know who I am nowadays, they don't need to go look at my resume and my LinkedIn. They just go on YouTube and watch a couple hours of content. They say, I like this guy. Or they say, I don't like this guy. I don't like, they're right. He is kind of a, hard charger. He challenges people a little too much. He's not my kind of a style. Or you know what? I like this guy. He's my kind of a style. So creating content today gives you an advantage that we never had before because today, the idea of becoming a celebrity is no longer a big deal today. Back in the days, the celebrity folks were the only people that got the right managers, the right movie producers that put them in their movies, and those guys were controlled by all over the place. I don't know if you saw the skit that the comedian Ricky Gervais did, the 8 minutes. If you've never seen it, if you go on Ricky Gervais' Twitter account and you watch that video, got like 100 million views on Twitter. It's an 8-minute skit. Wow. And he got up there and he called everybody in Hollywood out. Why? He says, because guess what? Nobody needs Hollywood power people anymore.
Yeah.
You can go to Netflix now. You can go to Hulu now. You can go to so many different people to get hired today, which means social media became the great equalizer only if you take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So you have a presence, you have a platform, you have a way of making announcements. All you need to do is say, I'm going live. Here's what I'm going to talk about at current times. And people can go out there and watch you and judge you in any way they want to do. And then it's either going to work in your favor or it's not going to work in your favor. But if you don't create content today, you're being left behind.
Yeah, I love that, bro. And I actually have thought about that, right? Like one day my great grandkids being able to see this. And I've actually thought about it to the sense where my mom is actually like someone who I want my kids and great grandkids to like see too one day. So I interviewed my mom. I've interviewed my grandfather who just passed away at 100 years old a year ago. And my family was like, what is he doing with a camera? I have videos interviewing my grandfather about philosophy at 100 years old. And now I'm like, I feel so grateful that I was able to do that with my grandfather. And I put it out to the YouTube community for everybody to learn from my grandfather. So, yeah, what an opportunity we really have. Talking about our ancestry, a couple questions. One, how would you like people to get better educated on the contributions and beauty of the Iranian culture here in America? And what are those values that maybe you have gained from your grandparents, your parents coming here from Iran?
I mean, listen, man, every day I wake up, I feel like I'm the luckiest man alive to be in America. I mean, there's no question about it. I still cannot believe we're in America right now because this is what we watched in movies. When I landed at John F. Kennedy Airport for the first time after leaving the refugee camp, I was looking for Sylvester Stallone. I said, where is Rocky? Where's Rocky? Where's Rocky at? We just got off the Lufthansa flight. I want to see Rocky. I was looking for, where is Pacino? Where is this guy? I want to see Scarface. I want to see Patrick Swayze. Because
we got to get you to interview Pacino or De Niro.
He would be very, we were about to do something with the hitman, and then the executive producer said, no, he's connected to Real Mob. I'm like, I'm the last person to be connected to Real Mob, but they didn't like the fact that I had interviewed real mobsters. So last minute they canceled the interview. But that was a whole different story. But the point being, when I came here, you mean to tell me in America I can have the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, to go out there and make as much money as I want to make and have the kind of life I want to live? This is a great place to be. But the part I will also tell you about Iran, and if you notice this painting behind me is what I look at every day I come in. You see Lincoln, you see Einstein, you see JFK, you see Tupac, you see myself, you see Senna. Yeah. That's the Shah of Iran. He's right in the middle. Milton Friedman, Martin Luther King, and there's an empty chair. And then here in my office, you see Joker, the Hulk, and Batman. And at the front, we have the Optimus Prime, the big 9-foot tall Optimus Prime. I have 4 communities that I have a lot of gratitude for. One is Iran, because I was born in Iran. Then it's a Syrian community because my dad's a Syrian. Then it's Armenian because my mom's Armenian. And then it's US because I lived here for the majority of my life. Every one of them have shaped a certain aspect of my life and my character, and they all matter to me a lot. So for me to sit there and say they don't. So combining them to get us like a good stew your grandma makes to eat that tastes so good, those 4 different nations and communities have made me PBD, and I'm grateful for all of them.
Yeah, I love that, Patrick. Thank you. And, you know, I learned a lot too. Like, I think that's what's beautiful about America, right? Like, it really gave us all this opportunity. And my grandparents immigrated here from Italy and my mom from Colombia. So I'm so grateful that I have those roots and that lineage. And now I have the opportunity, like you, to change the, you know, and just evolve a legacy for my family, you know, and just create real wealth and prosperity and knowledge and wisdom that I can pass down, and just change the trajectory of our life. So, I love that. So Patrick, I mean, I know you have a lot of leaders that you look up to. They're all on your wall, but like, who are the few that you really feel are the ones that you feel are some of the greatest leaders in history that you really like look at and admire?
I mean, it's generationally. You would have to put Alexander there for what he did. You have to put Napoleon for his unorthodox method of getting things done. Marcus Aurelius is probably going to be at the top for me on how he led Rome. Here's a guy that's the emperor of Rome who would have a slave sit right behind him the entire time, whisper to him, "You're not as important as you think you are." I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What emperor has a slave telling him you're not as important as you think you are? That's the only job the slave had at that time, and that's not a normal thing to do. So Marcus Aurelius, by the way, it's a great guy. If you go watch a video on YouTube, I don't know who put it together. It's a great video. It's titled Marcus Aurelius Pandemic. They went through it, and it talks about how Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, handled the pandemic.
Wow.
Very insightful video if you haven't watched it. Outside of that, I would put Shaw on the list. I would definitely put Shaw on the list. I'd put Washington on the list. I'd put Patton on the list. I'd put Lincoln on the list, Reagan on the list, JFK on the list, MLK on the list.
Yeah.
I put a lot of those guys on the list.
Yeah, I love that. You know, one of the things I'm doing right now, Patrick, you know, because I'm building out, I've had leaders create leaders for the past 4 years, interviewing some of the greatest modern day entrepreneurs and leaders in history. And now I'm actually building out that community, and I'm building out, like, how do I really truly want to build a community of leaders and guide them into becoming the greatest leader that they can possibly be and reach their full potential. So what I'm doing is I'm going back in time. One of the things that my grandfather said to me when he passed away at 100 years old was that the philosophy has already been written. That you don't necessarily need to read any new books. It's go back to what has already been written by some of the greats and understand that philosophy and then bring it into this new world. So that's just something that I'm really doing. And I'm sure you probably have really dissected so many of these leaders, but that's something that I'm going through right now.
Have you read Meditations? Have you read the book Meditations?
No.
Oh my gosh. Put it on your list.
Okay.
I mean, and by the way, you'll finish that book in 45 minutes. Meditations is the only writing they have till today from Marcus Aurelius. It's a must read. Meditation.
Right.
Everybody here watching this, Meditations is for everybody.
Got it.
Incredible. It's everything he learned from every experience in his life. What he learned from his grandma, his mom, his dad, failure, losses, kids, parenting, love, sex, leadership, money, finance, health, everything in a 45-minute read.
I love that. Comment a leader, guys, that you look up to, like the number one leader that you look up to in history right now. So I'm just curious, Pat, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't know how long you've maybe followed or known about me, but so I've always grown up very spiritual, but over the past few years, when I was really diving into what my purpose is, because I didn't expect to sell my company. So when I did, I was like, what's Gerard Adams? What's my identity? And it kind of led me to finding truly my purpose and doing now Leaders Create Leaders and building that. So, you know, I started learning about the practice of meditation and spirituality. Do you practice, or what do you practice meditation yourself? What are some of the daily rituals that you do to get you fully to have the ability to be the leader that you are at your, you know, in your life for a family man in business?
Somebody asked if I speak Farsi. من فارسی خیلی حرف میزنم. ارمنی هم حرف میزنم. آسوری هم حرف میزنم. یکم آلمانی هم حرف میزنم. Anyways, to answer the question for you, I'm a big prayer guy. Prayer guy. I grew up 25 years of my life of being the biggest atheist you could meet, because living in Iran, I would always be kicked out of Bible study and Bible school because I'm like, you want me to believe in a God and we just got bombed 167 times? I don't believe in it. But I joined the army. And when I joined the army, I was invited to this one camp because I had the third highest PT score during boot camp. And we went there, and I went to this one camp, and after this camp, we had to stay 30 minutes for a guy to the Bible study. And I would sit in the back and I would play pool, and I wouldn't listen to anything he would say. At the end, it was done. The guy pulled me aside. He said, son, can I talk to you? He was a 75-year-old man. I said, sure. He said, I got this book back in 1974 Christmas. It was given to me by my parents. I think you need it more than I do. And he just gave me the book. I said, no, I don't need it. I'm good. I believe me, I grew up in a strong family. I'm an atheist. He gave it to me. From that day on till today, I pray 3 times a day. And here's what my prayer sounds like. God, I don't think you exist. I think it's for people who think they need God. I don't need it. But if you're out there, great. I'll have a conversation with you. If you're not, I'm talking to myself. I'm a fool, which is good as well anyways, because I enjoy talking to myself. And I started from that approach. And then things started happening to my life. So I'm a big believer of prayer. Some call it meditations. I'm a big believer of prayer. It's worked for me very well.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I pray every day, and I also meditate, which has been like a really beautiful practice for me to just reconnect just to myself and my breath, and just allowed me to build up even more resilience. But I agree, man. I've been praying my entire life. All right. Well, I mean, one last thing I want to respect your time, Patrick. I really appreciate you so much, the work that you're doing in the world, how you show up every day. I would love to invite you onto season 6 of Leaders Create Leaders. If we can plan it, I'd really love to have you. The whole season of this season is around leaders that have built movements. And that's something that you have done around your business and just around valuetainment. So I would just love to invite you onto season 6 and see if you'd be open to doing that interview. And then just offer you to give any advice about someone right now that may be out there that is a young entrepreneur, CEO that really wants to step into being the most powerful leader that they can be. What would be some advice that you would give to them right now?
Put a lot of energy and effort into things you have control over, and nothing into things you do not. You know, I spoke to a guy again this morning who was panicking. I called him. I said, I want to look at your face. He says, why my face? I said, just FaceTime me. And he FaceTimes. I said, look in my eyes. And we're looking at each other. I said, you look scared. I'm not scared. I said, why is your voice cracking? I'm not scared. What are you scared of? Tell me what you're scared of. And we had a conversation together for 45 minutes on what he was scared about. I said, are you God? He says, what do you mean? I said, why are you acting like you're God? I don't understand what you're saying. Can you solve all of the world's problems? No. Why are you thinking so highly of yourself to think that you're responsible for solving every one of the world's problems? Do you sit on the board where you work with Anthony Fauci? No. Are you somebody that's an expert in pandemic viruses or biowarfare? No. Do you have any influence with Trump? Like, can you text him and tell him, hey, man, when are we going to get the stuff together? No. Are you sitting on the Democratic National Committee or on the Republican side? Or no. So why are you spending so much time thinking about stuff you have no control? The biggest advice I would give to people during a time like this, turn off all of your news notification, all of them. CNN, Fox, every single one of them. However, 7 o'clock in the morning, at noon, and at 7 o'clock, put a reminder in your phone for you to check the news, not the other way around. Your schedule is busy. I don't want the news to send me every single second something new happens. I'm getting a notification. How the hell am I going to get anything done? I'm not doing that. I will check the news at 7 a.m. I'll check the news at noon, and I'll check the news at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Anytime else, CNN, Fox, Bloomberg, keep it to yourself. I don't need to know about it right now. I got to build my business. So for some people that are so caught up in all the bad news that's being told all over the world, turn it off, put the energy into things you have control over. How you can figure out a way to recreate yourself, because the biggest part today, this is the biggest counsel I'll get to wrap up with, is the following. You ever seen the movie Count of Monte Cristo? You ever seen the movie Count of Monte Cristo?
No.
Oh my gosh, buddy, it is all you. It's seriously all you. It's pretty much a form of your story. You got to go watch Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay, wow, is it good?
So here's what happens with the story. So this guy is with a woman who he loves, and she loves him. They are crazy about each other. A man shows up in the picture, manipulates the entire situation because he wants to take her away from her love.
Yeah.
He ends up succeeding. He takes his girl away from him and creates a story and gets him arrested. He goes to jail. He's in jail. He's pretty much given up in life. One of his cellmates is a guy that's read all the books on philosophy and finance and law. During the time while he's in prison, he decides to learn law, he decides to study economy, he decides to study philosophy. Years later, he comes out of prison. When he comes out of prison, he implements all of that. Becomes the richest man in the community, the name Count of Monte Cristo, changes his name, puts the biggest party together, invites his ex and her new husband to his house party. He lands in a helicopter and he sees her walking through. He comes close to her and he says, "How you doing?" And she looks at him like, wait a minute, I recognize those eyes. Those eyes are of a man I was crazy about at one point. Wow, who is this guy? You seem so familiar. And he eventually ends up getting his girl back and revenge at that guy. What is the moral of the story? Sometimes we have to disappear and come out stronger. This is the time to disappear. And when everything settles down, we shock the hell out of the world because we've recreated ourselves. You go from the 1.0 version up to the 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, to the point where no one recognizes you. So it's a great opportunity today to recreate yourself and be your own form of Count of Monte Cristo.
So powerful, bro. I can't wait to watch that. Thank you for sharing that. That's what I plan on doing. I'm just taking it to a whole nother level. I hope everybody that's watching this right now, you get inspired right now so that you can come out of this and, you know, stop allowing the media to control you. I mean, half of it is too political anyways and not even intellectual. Like, actually start to take control of your life, take ownership of your destiny. If you go and be intentional, right? Go and watch Valuetainment. I mean, the amount of wisdom that Patrick is untangled from some of the greatest minds, you know, in history of these generations. Like, you have the ability to go and watch those. You know, I've done an unbelievable job at also creating all these interviews. Like, it's all there for you. Do that research, read the books that you know, Patrick just talked about. Take ownership of your life, come out of this even stronger, and do it for yourself. You know, I think Frank Sinatra, I love his line, you know, the best success is the best revenge. You know, so you owe it to yourself right now to kind of get yourself out of the noise, get yourself out of being distracted every single day. Sit down and get back to the principles that we talked about earlier, your core values, your foundation of what your vision is, you know, and the truth hurts sometimes, but get down to your truth and know that, you know, today you have access to everything that you can ever need in order for you to go out there and succeed. You know, when Patrick was becoming an entrepreneur, even when I was becoming an entrepreneur, I didn't have the ability to jump on a live stream like this and learn from a CEO like this. I mean, so you have no excuse but to go out there and do the work and to implement the sound principles that are out there that leaders have gone out and put out there for you to be able to read and digest. So, Patrick, thank you for taking time today. I look forward to connecting with you on a deeper level and continuing to have your leadership, your mentorship. I really appreciate you, bro. Thanks for everything that you do and who you are.
Anytime, brother. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, cool. Later, bro.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So, guys, I appreciate you jumping on. I'm excited to continue to just bring on some of these unbelievable leaders onto my live every single day around this time, sunset. I'm bringing on some really powerful leaders, you know, leaders that have been on my show like Gary Vee, Lewis Howes, Jay Shetty, Mel Robbins, Andy Frisella, Ed Milet. I mean, all of these have been on my show that I'm going to be reaching out to, seeing if they want to jump on live and share wisdom coming out of this. So what are some things that you guys learned? Comment below. I'd love to bring on a couple of you to talk about what you've learned. Let's see here. Who do you want to bring on? Maybe I'll bring on my buddy Adam see what he's up to, see what he can share, what he's learned, and what he kind of took from that with Patrick, and see if he wants to jump on. What are some things that you guys learned? What was the Count of Monte Cristo? The Count of Monte Cristo is what we just was that video. Let's see. Adam said he doesn't want to jump on, so let's see if maybe Candace wants to jump on here. Yeah. So guys, what are some things who are some of the leaders that you right now that you're following, that you're listening to, that you're learning from? Let me know in the comments. Who should we bring on the live stream out of these leaders? And if you haven't yet, definitely check out my show, Gerard Adams TV, on YouTube. It is has a series called Leaders Create Leaders, where I've done 5 seasons of interviewing some of the greatest modern day leaders. So definitely check that out on YouTube. And I appreciate you guys for jumping on here. Have a few more minutes. So just what are some things that you guys learned from my live with Patrick? And, you know, what are some questions that you guys have that maybe I can dive into and answer? If you guys have a question, feel free to ask me. Yeah, Dan Locke would be really cool. I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah, my buddy Mike Gerard is part of the Leaders Create Leaders community. Let's see, Justin Kahn. Yeah, he would be dope. I should probably reach out to him. Grant Cardone, he was an interview that I did, I think in season 2 of Leaders Create Leaders. I'd love to have him on live. I saw my buddy Alex jump on earlier too. Ryan Holiday, great book. He was on my show, Leaders Create Leaders. I think season 1. Yeah, so Elon Musk is definitely someone I don't want to bring on the show for sure. Joe Rogan is someone I want to bring on the show. Yes, Grant Cardone has been on the show. Garrett White, yes, he's somebody I'm going to reach out to. He's somebody I want to bring on. So he'd be sick. Brian Rose, Brendan Bouchard, yes. Focus is key. Let's see. Yo, what's up, Ruby? What's happening? Let's see if Ruby wants to maybe jump on. Ruby, you down to jump on a live for like 5 minutes? I only have another few minutes. But I'd love to invite either you or, let's see. All right, Adam says he's game too. Let's see if Ruby wants to jump on real quick here. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, sis?
I wasn't prepared for that, but
I know. Yeah, it's like, why not, you know? I don't know if you got to jump on earlier, but it was just cool. I just had Patrick BETT David on. It was really amazing, and just kind of having him share, you know, just his wisdom about leadership. But yeah, I mean, thanks for jumping on. And how's everything going for you? And I love your emails, guys. Make sure to follow Ruby. She has a podcast called the Thought Leader podcast. She has a whole collective called the Thought Leader Collective. So you're just doing amazing work, Ruby. Just love to hear kind of, you know, what's something that maybe you just took from that live stream or something that you want to share right now for all the leaders that are listening.
Well, I mean, I think it's, despite what's happening in our world right now, with all of the uncertainty, I think the one thing that we can all be certain of is ourselves. And so this is all about you really taking back the reins of what you have control over, which is you, which is your rituals, which is how you show up, which is how you're being seen, which is how you're taking care of yourself right now. And I think that there's also like a misconception of like how we should be during this time. And I think the best way to be during this time is however you need to be. You know, if you need more rest, then rest. If you feel the inspiration to push and build momentum and create something new, to then do that. But don't listen to other people and take their advice if it doesn't feel aligned for you, right? This is your time.
What do you recommend for someone? We talked about this with Patrick a little bit, right? We talked about principles, and he mentioned, when we were talking about core values, he mentioned alignment, and you just mentioned alignment. What's something that someone can do right now for them to figure out what that thing is that they need, that they should, that, you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
they feel in their heart is aligned to them, whether it's rest or it's build that business or it's, you know, whatever that is.
Oh, I got you on this. So here's the thing. So what you want to do is first you want to write down your top 5 values. And these can change, right? So I want you to do this now. What is most meaningful to you right now? What's important to you right now? Your top 5 things.
Yeah.
Once you have those top 5 things written down, audit your entire life, audit your business, audit your programs, your offers, everything that you're doing, the way in which you spend your time. And if something is not aligned with those top 5 values, then leave it alone.
Yeah.
This is like an instant auditing process that'll help you get clear on where you get to put your focus right now.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, yeah. So I'm just curious. I mean, I have probably I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby, what is something that you're doing on a daily basis every single day that's like part of your kind of your routine, your rituals, or like something that you're doing every single day during this time of like quarantine that you think that has just uplifted you, that has helped you to kind of just like keep your spirits high? I know me, I've had shadows come up. I just recently reached out to me and I appreciated that. I've had things come up for me that I'm just like, whoa, I didn't even realize that like I needed to deal with that, or I needed to heal that, or, you know, fear of like disappointment and like different like things that have crept up on me that I've had to kind of sit with. But like my every single day morning routine, me writing every day, meditating every day, staying true to that, like, and realizing that like it's okay to sit and get clear and slow down. For me as an entrepreneur, I've always been the guy who's like hustle, grind, go. And the biggest thing that I've learned even before this quarantine, but this quarantine more than ever before, has been like slow down. And it's okay to slow down to speed up. So, you know, what has been something for you that you've been doing every day that has allowed you to have, you know, positive vibes, positive mindset, you know, feeling good, being able to do your best work?
Yeah, 30 to 35 minutes of breath work and meditation every single morning, absolute non-negotiable. And then the second thing is eating super healthy. I think it's like really easy to go snappy, but I've been eating all my whole plant-based foods, getting my smoothies in, and really just taking care of myself.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Well, I love you so much. I look forward to catching up with you soon. I appreciated you reaching out recently. Guys, make sure to follow Ruby. And I appreciate you. I'll see you soon.
I appreciate you. Okay, bye.
Bye. So that's it, guys. That's a wrap. I appreciate you guys jumping on every single day. I do these live streams. It's a live stream series while we're in quarantine. And I'll be bringing on powerful people. I'll also be just jumping on myself and chopping it up and sharing with you guys, you know, my lessons over the last 18 years as an entrepreneur, building 2 8-figure companies by 30 years old, on my new journey of building my new mission, my new movement, Leaders Create Leaders. I definitely just would love to learn from each and every one of you, how I can serve you, how I can have you step into your leader within, help you to get clear on that vision, help you build a movement around your message, around your mission. And I appreciate you guys being a part of this community. So, you know, definitely I'll see you guys tomorrow, but let me know if this was valuable. And if it was, comment on my last post, tag Patrick, and let him know to come on season 6 of Leaders Create Leaders. And I love you guys. I appreciate you. Until tomorrow, stay focused, adapt, execute, and make sure to continue to just tap into your leader. All right. Love you guys. Peace.